Hello everyone and welcome to the 10th episode of KRANKcast. My name is Tudor, I'm your host, and you're listening to KRANKcast, the official KRANKiT podcast. So, first of all, I'm just going to plug some of my social media because, shameless advertising. So you can also follow us on YouTube on the main channel called KRANKiT. We also have an Instagram and a TikTok that's crank.it or crank_it. That being said, you can listen to this podcast anywhere from YouTube to your favorite podcasting platform of choice. So we don't discriminate. You can find us anywhere. But that being said, let's quickly go through all the topics of this week, all the news topics of this week, and then we're going to dive deeper into them. So first things first, we have a new Harley Sportster 300. Europe's highest motor museum will reopen by the end of 2021. We have some new GASGAS trials bikes, so that's exciting. Also exciting, it's BMW's new M1000RR safety bike. Some more Harley news. We have a new program from Harley called the Harley Certified Pre-Owned. And then also a new Harley 1250 Custom is supposed to come out after the Pan America. And finally, the last bit of news is, unfortunately, we have some more casualties of Euro 5. Wah, wah, wah. I know. What can we do? And then from the blast from the past section, we're going to talk about the bike that started the trend, I think. I'm talking about the BMW R1100GS. And then finally, we're going to give you some KRANKiT updates at the end. But that's enough jibber-jabber. Let's jump straight into the topics, straight into the podcast with the first topic that we're going to discuss. And as you can see here, this is what might be a new Harley Davidson Sportster 300. So, first of all, this bike is actually not made solely by Harley. This is a collaboration of Harley with a Chinese manufacturer called, and I need to read this, Qianjiang. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of this, and I'm sorry, Chinese listeners, and sorry to everyone. But basically Harley is partnered up with this Chinese company, Chinese manufacturer, to produce these 300 Harley-inspired bikes. So what's this supposed to be? This is basically supposed to be an entry-level Harley for the Asian market. I doubt it's going to be that focused on the European or on the American market especially. But in Asia, this might work. Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. But my biggest question of this one, is it still a Harley? It's definitely not going to be made in the USA. The engine is definitely not going to be a Harley-made engine. So really, it's more of a Harley in spirit than anything else. And the reason I'm asking this is, think of how the Street 750, like the Street Line-up, was received. Long story short, not well. Because people who wanted an entry-level bike, well, there were already a lot of good entry-level bikes, like the Vulcan, the Kawasaki Vulcan S, the Honda Rebel 500 and stuff like that. But the people who wanted a real Harley, those weren't actual, like what people would call real Harleys. They were parallel twins instead of V-twins. They had a lot of stuff that weren't Harley-esque. So those bikes had sort of a mixed appeal, you could say. So I'm really curious how this will do. Now, to be fair though, this bike will put out around 30 horsepower, so it's probably aimed more toward the Asian market. And in the Asian market, they're used to low cc bikes. This is why KTM, for example, sells a lot of their like 390 and down bikes there, because the Asian market is used to that. 30 horsepower for your average Asian bike sold, that's actually not bad. So I wouldn't complain from that point of view. I'm just curious if does the Asian market care enough about the Harley brand for them to buy this bike? I'm not sure. I'm afraid this is going to go down the slope of sort of like what the Street 750 did, which is, I mean, it's a decent bike, but meh, you know. Look, I wish Harley all the best because I know they're losing a lot of revenue. They're losing a lot of money, and they've been losing a lot of money and market share and everything. But hey, if they're trying to enter Asia, good luck to them. What can I say? I'm waiting for some more details on this bike. But that being said, let's switch to something a bit more European and some good news, because if you remember, we talked a few podcasts ago, it was one of the first podcasts actually, where we talked about a motorcycle museum being in flames. So Europe's highest altitude motorcycle museum actually burst into flames this winter, and yeah, that was a bit of a tragedy. There were a lot of bikes lost, a lot of the museum was basically lost. Luckily, nothing around it caught on fire, but yeah, the place was pretty bad. And from what I remember, nobody was harmed, so that's good. No person was actually harmed in that fire. But now we have the good news, because they are supposed to reopen by the winter of 2021. That's cool. That's really, really cool. So they were promised around 250 bikes from different collectors from all over the world. That's amazing. Like, the amount of support these guys got is just amazing. And to be fair, the motorcycle enthusiast population, it's there, you know, and we are a close community of sorts. And so I'm glad they're going to be able to open up by the end of this year. And I can't wait for next year, with hopefully all the Rona thing comes to an end. And I can't wait to do a tour, and I will definitely incorporate this museum this time in my tour. I can't wait to see what they're doing. Yeah, I can't wait to pay them a visit. I think they're definitely gonna have some cool stuff lying around. I am sure of that. Oh, and I forgot to change the picture. Look, here's how the museum used to look. Huh? That's cool. That's cool. But yeah, this is what can be said about the museum. Now, the next topic, we have a Spanish manufacturer, which is actually kind of Austrian right now, a bit. Talking about GASGAS, because they released their new 2020 lineup of trials bikes, so their TXT lineup. My first point on the list to talk about is that I want to ride a trials bike. I desperately want one. It doesn't need to be a new one. It doesn't need to be a sort of a new generation one, right? So I don't want the double spring in the back, like classic ones, but you know, like a 2003, 2005 trials bike, that would be amazing for me to ride. I'd love to try one out. I'd love to own one. My time is quite limited, so I'm not sure when exactly I would ride it, but I think it could create some awesome both content and awesome riding. But going back to these GASGAS, so of course, single cylinder motorcycles, what's cool about them is that their weight is actually sub 68 kilograms dry. And one, that's impressive, but what's also impressive is that even wet, these bikes don't weigh much more, because they have small engines, and with small engines, they usually don't carry much oil, especially with a two-stroke, for example. And then also, you have to keep in mind that the fuel capacity of a trials bike is extremely limited. It's somewhere around like 3 or 4 liters, right? They're not made for any long distance. They're made for like hopping around in a predefined spot. And so this is how they're extremely light, even wet. So I would not be surprised if this bike was around 75 kilograms wet at most. Honestly, I would not be surprised at all by that. So yeah, GASGAS definitely passes the weight checkbox here. The looks aggressive, looks pretty cool, I gotta say. I'd love to own one GASGAS. If you want to hit your boy up, I would be up for snatching one. But what's also cool about these is helping with the design is basically the paintwork. You have 3 options. You have red, or even more red. Okay. In all seriousness, though, you don't really have any options. You can only have one color for these. Would I really care? No. Does this bike look really cool in red? Yes. Do I care again? No. It's going to be a cool bike. And especially going to be a cool practice bike for other people. But for other nations where trials riding is more developed, then yeah, this is going to be a really cool competition bike. Actually, it's a competition bike lineup. So there's that. But now it's time to move to some more street bikes, and I bet you like what you're seeing behind me, because that, my friends, is a BMW M1000RR safety bike. Okay, so what the heck is a safety bike? Why? Well, just to put it into context, so usually in MotoGP racing, we had safety cars, and BMW has actually been a partner for the safety cars for quite a while now. So we had stuff like the M3, the M4, maybe an M5 as safety cars in these competitions. So what BMW is doing now is they released this sort of special version that can act as a safety bike for the competitions. And so for the new 2021 MotoGP season, there will still be free safety cars on board, so free BMW safety cars, M powered. But then BMW also provides one safety bike. Now BMW also declared that this bike is going to be part of their World Superbike program as well. So that's cool. I mean, obviously it's like a fully tricked out BMW S1000RR. It's got like the wings. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's a cool bike. Don't get me wrong. It's a really cool bike. What I'm curious though is, I'm curious how often will we see this safety bike? Now, first of all, is such a bike maybe a bit too easy to confuse with other bikes on the circuit? I don't know. It's a genuine question. I don't know. Like, it's easy for you as a rider to see a safety car because it's obviously a car in your bike race. But when you see just another back of a bike, I mean, I guess you could have like high-vis stuff on it or whatever. But I'm genuinely curious about this. I'm curious, when are we gonna see this bike on track in the MotoGP rounds? But hey, it's cool, you know. I mean, if you think about it, it does kind of make sense, right? It's bike racing. Why wouldn't you have bikes as safety bikes? I mean, if the Isle of Man can have doctors on motorcycles, I see no reason why MotoGP couldn't have safety bikes in the lineup. And so, well, yeah, they do. That's pretty cool. We need to go back to the USA now for the next bit of news, because we're talking about the Harley Davidson pre-owned, certified pre-owned motorcycle program. So what this is, well, it's basically Harley Davidson will have a sort of official stock of secondhand bikes that they're going to sell you. They're going to be officially inspected by Harley Davidson. You might get some small warranties here and there. And it's meant to attract more public to their own brand. They want to catch a bit of the resale market as well. And in the place of Harley, it makes sense, right? And it's a cool product, right? For me as a buyer, I might spend a bit more on a certified pre-owned Harley. But if that gives me some sort of assurance that, yeah, this is going to be a good bike, I know for sure I'm not getting a Lemon, or I'm not getting someone else's trashed around Sportster, then yeah, I might pay just a bit more for it to be Harley certified. Now, this sort of thing has been popular in the car world already. I know just two brands that pop into my head are Mercedes and BMW. They both have certified pre-owned, and actually there are a lot of dealers that only sell these sort of certified pre-owned cars from BMW and Mercedes. And these are just examples. I'm willing to bet that most manufacturers have this sort of stuff, especially more high-end ones. And they do really well, because if you think about it, you buy a bike that's like just a few years old for secondhand pricing, maybe just a tad more than like your usual retail on like Auto Trader or whatever. But you do get some peace of mind. And for some people, and maybe including me, that peace of mind could mean a few extra dollars, for my pocket. Honestly, I think it's cool. If it works for them, it's good. But this does feel like Harley is desperate to grab some more cash. If you haven't seen Fortnine's videos on Harley dying, well, you should definitely see that one. But yeah, Harley is not doing well. They're losing market share. They've been losing it for years now. They've been selling less and less bikes, making less and less profits. They haven't been profitable, I think, yeah, they haven't been profitable in quite a while. So this might attract some more customers to Harley Davidson, but one of the points I have here is that the customer base is actually the same. So you kind of have two arguments for this one, right? So in one way, yes, the target audience is the same for the certified pre-owned program, but maybe they're reaching some new customer in the sense that it's a customer that would never buy a new bike, just because maybe it's a bit too much of a waste. Because it's obvious that whenever you buy a new bike from the showroom floor, in 2 years it's going to lose a lot of its value, and that's applicable to Harleys as well. And so there are a lot of customers that would only buy like 2 or 3 year used bikes, and to be fair, I would be one of those. And so for me, this would be a good idea, but that would mean that I would already have to be in Harley's sort of target demographic of customers, which I guess they're expanding it a bit. Is it enough though? I don't know. Will it bring some more cash into Harley Davidson? Yes, of course. Will it bring enough? I don't think so. I don't think such a program is their lifesaver. I think they really need to think stuff through. Maybe it's a good bandage for now to sort of stop a bit of the bleeding, but they're bleeding in so many places at this point that stopping one sort of point of bleeding might not be enough for Harley Davidson. and it would be a shame, to be fair. Now, speaking of trying to reinvent themselves, we're sticking to Harley for now because we will have a new Harley Davidson 1250 Custom that will come up after the Pan America. So the Pan America is their sort of big BMW GS competing product, adventure bike. But this one's going to be a classic Harley cruiser, except it's not going to be so classic. So you can actually, I'm scrolling around. No. What the heck am I doing? Oh my God, I thought, okay. I'm bad at this. But yeah, so this is going to be how the bike will probably look. So these are some pictures of it. We have a new radiator, we have new mirrors, indicators, lights, foot pegs. Not a lot of revolutionary stuff up until now. But still, we're also going to have Brembo brakes as equipment and Showa suspension. So definitely high quality stuff on here. Well, we can't complain about quality on this one. And they aim this bike to be as a sort of a competitor for the Ducati Diavol or for the Triumph Rocket Free. And you know what? I see it because it is supposed to be using the same engine as the Harley Pan America, which we already talked about, but it's going to be a fairly high-tech engine, or at least high-tech for Harley standards. So that should be good. So this is going to be one of the first high-tech cruiser Harleys. It's not going to be like a bike to put like huge panniers and windscreens on, but I would like it. That's the thing, though. Will it please anyone? Because I would personally like it. Would I buy it over a Ducati Diavol or a Triumph? I'm not so sure. It wouldn't be an easy decision for sure. The thing is, with Harley, it's difficult because think about how the V-Rod was. It was an amazing bike. For Harley, it produced a ton of horsepower, and it could compete with some like power cruisers from like the Japanese. But it always had that sort of hate towards it. The true Harley buyers didn't like it because it wasn't a true Harley, right? It wasn't built in the spirit of Harley and with a good old hammer. Now, me personally, I like the fact that Harley is experimenting with these new technologies. I like that they're finally getting the proper cruiser market and they're not giving up on it. But I'm just left to wonder that maybe Harley's market just doesn't want that. Maybe, I don't know. They didn't like the V-Rod, so why would they like this? I hope people changed. I hope perspective changed, and I hope that new buyers of Harley would love this bike. I would love to try out this bike at least. But a few buyers here and there is not going to be enough, right? Harley's going to have to capture a much broader audience. So we're going to have to see. Now, I got to say, it looks super cool though. As you can see from the picture, that's a cool looking bike. And yeah, you can't deny that. But now we have to go into the last bit of news, which is, I mean, I guess it's not exactly news, but it's more of a roundup that we found. Also, most of these stories are courtesy of rideapart.com, so thanks a lot for this website. You bring us a lot of great news about motorcycles, and from which we pick and choose a few of them. So thanks rideapart.com. But we have some iconic bike names that are going to be killed because of Euro 5. There are some good ones in here, some mech ones in here, but let's start. So first of all, Yamaha FJR 1300, Yamaha's tourer cruiser thingy, won't go past Euro 5. Also, for Honda, we are losing the VFR 800 and the VFR 1200. That's sad because the VFR lineup was quite something from when it started. Even like I remember the old VFR 800s that had VTEC in them. Those were amazing bikes. They behaved similar to sports bikes while being more comfortable, being good for like sort of longer touring sessions. They were amazing bikes. But what this means is that with Euro 5 they're going to be discontinued, and what this also means is that this is going to be the first time in a long time when Honda will not have any V4 in their new bike lineup. These were the last ones, and unfortunately a lot of people are going towards V4 engines. It seems like Honda is going, nope, no, we've been one of the first here, but nope. It's a shame, really. It's a shame, but I guess they're just not selling enough of them to make it worth it, probably. Some bikes that we already talked about, so the Yamaha R6 and the Kawasaki ZX6R, but we know about this, we talked about them before. But some bikes that we didn't talk about before, I forgot to change the picture again, are the MV Agusta F3 675, the Ducati Monster 797, and the Monster 1200. This is a big sad, but it kind of makes sense because the Street Fighter now is sort of the replacement in a way for the Monster 1200. It's unfortunate because the 797 was the last sort of air-cooled, cool Monster, old school. That's not going to be a thing any longer. I guess we just have to get used to the fact that the Monster lineup it's probably never going to be the same as it used to be. But yeah, we have to move on. Now, another bike is the Yamaha Super Tenere. Most people probably don't care that much about it. It wasn't that great of a bike in the last few years. You can watch Fortnite's review of that one actually. But yeah, so we're going to lose that one. Meh, I don't really care that much. We are also going to lose the Triumph Tiger Sport 1050. Okay. And we're going to lose the BMW R90 Racer for some reasons. I'm not sure why. The R90 is not going anywhere, but the R90 Racer is going to be discontinued. And to be fair, this one I'm not sure if it's because of Euro 5 or not. But oh well, we're not going to have it any longer. Harley Sportster is going. Bye. Farewell, my little Harley. You were good. You were definitely a good bike. And there are more obscure bikes like the Yamaha SCR 950, which was a wannabe scrambler that was pretty shit at being a scrambler. But yeah, these were the news, and this is what we could talk about in the news. But now it's time to go to the blast from the past section. And this one we're actually going to talk about this. Oops, sorry. We're going to talk about this bike, which is the BMW R1100GS. Now, this is the first GS as we know it. Okay. Technically, it wasn't, because technically the R80GS and the R100GS came before it, and they are from the same lineup. But this is the first over 1,000 sort of GS that BMW released. This is one of the first modern-ish big adventure bikes that BMW released. So, that being said, it was released in 1994 and it was produced all the way up to 1999, so it had a 5-year life. Not too bad. It had an 80 horsepower Boxer engine. You know what? For 94, 80 horsepower engine, Boxer, doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound bad. And actually, I would kind of love to try one of these bikes. I thought about buying one of them at some one point, just to see how it was. You know, buying it for the channel, doing a few videos on it, and then selling it onwards. I think it would be cool. It would be fun to see how adventure riding was back in the day, like back when I was born, really, because this is the exact time interval where I was born. If you want to guess my age, go ahead and do it. This bike featured a shaft drive, as we got used to with these BMWs. It had a weird front suspension. It was the first time the BMW debuted the tele-lever suspension. Basically, it's one of those suspensions where the shock was sort of based on the frame. So you can just look at it in the picture. It looks nothing like regular suspension, but this is when they debuted that sort of technology, and then they used this technology in other bikes as well further down the line. So it was definitely not a flop. There are some cool things about this one, especially for 1994, because optional, you could get ABS on the motorcycle in 1994. Let that sink in, because it's no small feat. The bike weighed in at about 243 kilograms, which, yes, might sound like a lot, but I mean, if you buy a new GS, you're not far off. So, actually, that's not terrible. I expected it to be worse. I expected it to be much worse. The engine featured partial oil cooling and fuel injection for 1994. They switched over to fuel injection in this generation, so the R100 was carbureted, but the R1100, which is the bike we're talking about, was fuel injected. Of course, one of the earliest fuel injection systems. Also, as an optional, you could get factory installed heated grips. Heated grips in ABS in 1994. Madness, you know. In 1994, a lot of cars didn't have ABS, but you can get it on a BMW motorcycle, so that's cool. This was the OG of a go anywhere bike, right? This was the bike that you could take around the world. I think Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman took 1150s, which is the generation right after this one, on the long way round trip, and that bike basically made ADV bikes into what they are today. Made people want to ride ADV bikes. Oh, this is the father of that bike. That's cool. So yeah, as I said, this is not the first real like GS bike that they did, but it was the first like proper modern bike, right? I mean, you could say it's modern because it has ABS, it has fuel injection, all of these little amenities that you expect of a modern bike. Well, this one had it in 1994. That's impressive, I have to say. But yeah, this has been a blast from the past section of this podcast. We're getting really close to the end. And speaking of the end, it's time to talk about some KRANKiT updates. There aren't many, but there are 3 points I want to go through. First of them is I'm going to tease you a new bike. So if you've been following... Actually, I don't think I shared it on KRANKiT at all. But I have a new bike. Actually, I bought it in January. If you've watched some of the podcasts, you might have a hint on what it is. I'm going to leave you one hint today. It's made by my favorite motorcycle manufacturer. It's 2016 model, and that's all I'm going to say for now. I might reveal it a bit more later. That's all I'm going to say for now. Also, I have the next video in the works for the main KRANKiT channel is going to be about this bike. It's going to be about me buying this bike. It's not going to be the review. I need to write it way more for me to build a proper review because I want that video to be amazing. But hey, it's still going to be a properly produced KRANKiT video, so you should definitely stay tuned for that one. And also, I have some updates on the Supermoto build series. So we have the wheels now. We should have the tires for it. Probably by tomorrow they should arrive. So we have a new pair of Michelin Pilot Power RS and Power RS Plus in the rear. And we also have a new tire coming for the new mystery bike, which is a Dunlop Sport Smart TT. All really good tires. Can't wait for them to get there. And once I have the tires, I'm gonna go to the shop and talk to them about the build and finally getting it started because I'm getting excited. Riding season is coming here in about a week. Weather should be good again, so it won't snow like it's doing right now, and things should be able to get moving, a little. And yeah, I can't wait to start it off. So thanks a lot for listening to this podcast. Thanks a lot for staying with me. Hope you found the news enjoying. Hope you find a blast from the past and the updates as well. Hope you find them well. So if you have just seen of this and if you liked it, then leave a like, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you might be listening to this podcast. You can find us on basically your podcasting platform of choice. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, doesn't matter. We're probably there. You can also listen to us on YouTube. We have a video version of this podcast that apparently I kind of messed up with the pictures. Hey, I got to get used to it. What can I say? It's a work in progress. We also have an Instagram, that's krank.it, and then we also have a TikTok, that's krank_it. And I think that's about it with the social media shameless plugs. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you soon with episode 11. I really hope I didn't mess the numbering on this one. I really hope this is episode 10, because I didn't check before. But yeah, we'll see you soon on the next episode, next week of KRANKcast. And until next time, have a good one. Bye.